Brad, we've had some questions about SmartTier, which is a feature of Storage Foundation. Can you explain that a little bit for everybody?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Great.
Okay. So, as Bob said, the feature is called SmartTier. It used to be called Dynamic Storage Tiering. And it's something we do that's in the general class of what's called Hierarchical Storage Management. But it really does so much more than that. So there's some key components to this. One of it is what's called a multi-volume file system, and I'll talk about that. Another is what we call a placement class, or also referred to as a storage tier, and really that boils down to just tag names that you can have with really any feature in Volume Manager. And then lastly, the key thing is there are rules, right? And that's really where the rubber meets the road. So let's say we have a typical scenario and we've got some solid state devices, and maybe that's classified as our tier 1, our really high performing. And then let's say we have some LUNs from a high-end array, and we'll say that's our tier 2 because we can get some performance as well as high availability there. And then let's say we have some LUNs from a low-end array, and we'll call that tier 3. Yeah. Well, traditionally what we would do is we would create a volume on top of those solid state devices. We'd create a volume on these LUNs, and we'd create a volume on those LUNs. Well, traditionally, a volume in a file system is a one-to-one relationship. So we'd put a VXFS file system here, right, on each one. Well, that's great, except what if, the application that's mounting this file system, probably maybe much of their stuff is critical to be high-end, but maybe they have some other files that really need to reside over here on these low-end LUNs. Well, we could, of course, create multiple volumes across all this and make it more of a mess, but with the SmartTier, it makes it a whole lot easier. So the first part of this is the multi-volume file system. Now, a key part of that is we introduce what's called a volume set. And all a volume set is one or more volumes. So basically, we put a wrapper around, in this example, those 3 volumes. That becomes a volume set. Now, the key thing is when we create the file system, instead of this scenario where we have one file system per volume, what we actually do is we create a file system that encompasses all those volumes. That's the multi-volume file system. And again, it's a VXFS file system. The cool thing is it's exactly created just like a normal file system. Instead of mounting or creating this file system on this volume device, we create the file system on this volume set device. So we have a single file system. So now we have a single file system incorporating all these LUNs. Now our placement class. Like I said, it's sometimes referred to as a storage tier, and really it's just tag names. The tag names tend to be something like this: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It's really up to them. But basically, we're classifying this set of LUNs being this class. And then lastly, we create rules. Rules are just like email rules, if you think about it. It says that, okay, if I have a critical file, I want it to go on tier 1, so that file is going to be placed on these solid state devices. If I have a low-end file, a temporary file or something, I actually want it to go over here. So the rules allow not only initial placement, but also movement of files as things change, like I/O activity.
So I was just going to ask about that. So the files can change position based on some other characteristics,
Absolutely.
Right?
The rules are really the cool part of this whole
Great.
thing.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for explaining what SmartTier is.